All right, thought I'd do another little crankbait video. This one's going to be a little bit different. First, let me say that I've been fishing crankbaits for about 40 years. I started out dragging a jig, dragging a worm, then I discovered spinnerbaits and crankbaits, and man, it was off to the races. Power fishing is that, man, that's how I live. And I have caught, most people associate me with spinnerbaits, but I have caught probably more fish on crankbaits than I have on spinnerbaits. Now, when it comes to big fish, yeah, more big fish on spinnerbaits and crankbaits, but still, I've caught a buttload of big fish on crankbaits. But those are my two, between crankbaits and spinnerbaits, probably 60% of all the bass I've ever caught in my life have come on those two kinds of lures. So, yeah, I'm a spinnerbait nut, but I'm a crankbait guy too. So, let's talk about crankbaits. For starters, you got basically just two kind of materials that they're made out of. They're either made out of wood, of some sort of wood, or they're made out of plastic. And that affects a lot of how they react. The balsa and the cedar, they're a little more buoyant, especially the balsa. They pop up faster. The plastic is a little slower to react, which is why a lot of people like to use plastic in cold water, because it floats up slower. Gives a little time, the fish a little bit more time to react to it. Whereas in the warmer weather, the balsa pops up and it's a little bit more snag resistant because it's more buoyant and pops up. You're liable to get it free from cracking a rock or something like that. But you can use either one anytime. There's no laws about when you have to use a certain kind of crankbait. So I use my flat A, I use it 12 months out of the year. I never leave the house and I ain't got a flat A tied on. And it's just effective as in January. That one right there. It's just as effective in January it is as in July. But the crankbaits I started out using back in the 80s, basically these two here. This little Rebel Deep WeAre, different colors of it, and this Model A bomber. Caught big fish on both of them. Caught monsters on this flat A bomber, this 7A bomber. And like every lure that I love, whether it's a crankbait or a swim bait or whatever, they're all out of production. You can still buy 7A bombers. You just can't find this color anymore, which is my favorite. Now, here's the thing. The configuration of a crankbait can have a huge impact on how it works. Now, you take a bait like a shad wrap here, slim, subtle, and see how the lip comes nearly straight out? That gives it a very subtle, tight wiggle. Now, you take a bait like this Bagley's Killer B2, and you see the extreme angle of the lip. That's going to make it have a big, huge, wide wobble. These kind of baits are really, really good in cool, off-color water, period, because they displace a lot of water and they make it easier for the fish to find. But they're also good with that slow, wide wobble in cooler, off-color water. So, just look at the difference in the two. See the angle of the lip? The more that lip's angled down, the more you're going to get that. The straighter the lip, the more you're going to get that little wiggle like that. And don't be locked into thinking you have to use a certain one at a certain time, because fish have their own, they haven't read the same books we have. They haven't watched the same TV shows we have. They have their own way of doing whatever they want to do. And just about the time you think you got it figured out, they're going to show you that you don't know jack. There was a smoo mentioned last night. I had this one on when I was on the show last year up there. This is a smoo. And see, now look at that big wide lip. This thing has got a wobble on it like nobody's business. And I would use this in clear water over dirty water. It would work in either one, but I can just see this thing where I tried to use it last year, but I just didn't get a chance to. But the thing has got a hellacious wobble, but that's a smoo. But like I say, look at that downward, that big lip. It gives it that wide wobble. That's something to think about when you're choosing a crankbait. Let's see, here's another example. These two baits here, this little Rebel Supernatural Bass. It's kind of like that Shad Rappy thing. Long, straight. It's got a little bit of a wider bill. It's got a little bit more wobble to it. And this little Cotton Cord LCC Shad, it's got a good wide wobble to it. We used to use this at night up on Blue Ridge in the wintertime. It caught anything in the lake. Smallmouth, largemouth, walleye, white bass, you name it, it'd catch it. But again, they're both plastic. And they've got that little bit more subdued wobble, but it's got a wobble. But again, it's that angle of the lip. This one, not so much. So if you're wanting something to move some water, get something that's got that downward, that big downward lip like that gives it that wide wobble. The straighter the lip, the more subdued the action. That's something you don't hear a lot of people talk about, but it is a thing. I also keep hearing people talk about a rock crawler. All right, well, I bought a rock crawler just to see what the fuss was all about. Now, here are 3 lures that are pretty much the same size and shape as a rock crawler. There's a rock crawler, got some little Bagleys, Excalibur shad, and that's a man's 15 plus. They can't make the same bait forever, because if you do, everybody's going to have it, and they're just going to quit buying baits. So they've got to, at some point, they're going to quit making a bait, no matter how successful it is, and start making something else to make you buy some more lures. I mean, that's all that's about. But again, that's another option. And again, these both have pretty straight bills, so they're not going to have a big extreme action. I have yet to throw this thing because I know I have other lures that will work just as well. But these other lures that work just as well, they don't make any more. So they got to come up with something new. So hence your rock crawler and a quadrillion others. All right, now we'll start shallow. Square bills. You got 9 trillion square bill lures. And Mann's had a series. They had like a 1-, they had a baby 1-, they had and they had a mid 1-, and they had a 4-, 8-, all kinds of minuses, different sizes, different depth ranges. This is my favorite square bill. It's from Academy. It's $4.49. I have caught a ton of bass on this, including some monsters. I know I've caught at least 3 over 8 pounds on it. But it's a wide, squat body. It's got a lip. It's got pretty good action to it. It's got an action they like. That's all I know. Then you have your little flat crankbaits. Again, like my Bomber Flat A. This is, well, I can't believe it. This is my favorite crankbait of all time. It's caught over 100 bass over 5 pounds, and God knows how many other bass. They don't come like this. They don't make this color anymore. They still make a Flat A, and they've got some really good prices on them at LureNet if anybody wants to pick some up. They're like $3.99 a piece. When I get them, I change out that front hook. I put an oversized Mustad triple grip on it, a red one. I also put an oval split ring on the front of it. Split rings are probably the best thing to happen to crankbaits in decades. It's just, it makes it so much easier to retie or tie on to begin with. It's awesome. Let's see. And like I say, you've got the flat ones, you've got the squat ones, you've got the big ones. You've got, this is another oldie goldie, Rebel Super R. It's got that wider lip. It's got a good wide wobble to it. This is a killer. And that's its baby. That's a Humpy on the right and a Super R on the left. Basically the same lure, just one smaller than the other. These are absolute killer crankbaits in cool, off-color water. Used them on Altoona for years. They're deadly. And this is another one. Don't even know if they still make it or not, but it's kind of in the same grouping. This is a Bill Norman Super Scooper. I do the same thing. I oversize that front hook. Doesn't affect the action. And I put split rings on them to make the tying easier. But this is it's got a good wobble to it. This used to be an awesome crankbait on Sinclair back in the wintertime. Another awesome choice. Now, most of all these lures come in different sizes, different colors. But if you can see my boxes here, you see basically two kind of color schemes. You see like the bright chartreuses, the real vibrant, easy visible stuff. And then you see the more muted stuff, turns out like shad and stuff. Shad finishes and stuff like that. Those are, you know, I ain't getting into all these 9,000 colors of things. That's just a gimmick to yanking fishermen. Now you also have in your shallow range, you have lures like this little Bagley's B flat. It's got a real tight wobble, a little shallow diver, a little square bill, but it's made out of balsa. So if you're around some real shallow rock and stuff like that, this can be good for that. Or it works dynamite on schooling fish. I told a story on one of the live wells I was on a long time ago. I found one of these. I was at Wise, back up in a creek, and somebody had made a cast and thrown over a telephone line that ran across the lake. And they got it hung, and I guess they jerked on it and it wrapped, but it was hanging. And I guess it was hanging high enough that they couldn't reach it. But I could reach it, so I reached up and I grabbed it, and I tied it on, and I just absolutely caught the snot out of schooling fish on it that day. So I got me some more of them. But again, they're real tight wobble. They don't dive very deep, but they're a great little crankbait, the shallow diver. But you have so many options. I mean, you've got Bombers, you've got Bagleys, you've got Rebels, you've got Normans, you've got Cordell, you've got Strike King, you've got 1,000 different crankbaits. And there's really nothing new on the market. There hasn't been nothing new for, God, 20, 30 years. They're all just different versions of stuff that's existed in the past. And a lot of these guys today, they don't know, they've never seen any of this stuff. But the stuff they're using and going crazy about, it's just a current knockoff of the stuff from back in the past. Because I mean, there's a limit to what you can do with a plastic or wood body, a lip, and a couple of hooks. There's a limit to what you can get done with that. So they just keep making them look different, and you put a little paint job on it, make some fancy packaging and stuff like that. But there's nothing new. Again, like I say, this little thing's been around right here. This little Man's 15 plus. It is an absolute killer. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a predecessor to the rock crawler. I don't know if they make these anymore. I've got a pretty good supply of them, so I'm not really worried about it. But again, what you got to look at is body shape, the angle of the lip, the width of the lip, what the lure's made out of. But there are no hard and fast rules. I mean, like I say, I use my plastic flat A 12 months out of the year. Catch fish on it 12 months out of the year. I also throw some Bagleys, some balsa plugs in there when I'm fishing around a lot of heavy rock and wood and stuff like that to get that quick flotation out of it. This big thing here, this is a Bagley's DB3 Magnum. It's got a pretty good wobble, but it'll get on pretty deep too. This is an old lure, been around a long time. You can see it's had the crap beat out of it. The thing about these old balsa lures is you got to watch them. When you start getting the paint knocked off of them like that, get some fingernail polish, clear fingernail polish, and seal it up, because they will take on water and it will affect the buoyancy. Then you get action you may not want. So that's something to keep an eye on with any wood lure. What else we got? We got lipless crankbaits. My God, there's so many of them it's not even funny. I think it goes all the way back to like the Bayou Boogie, the Pico Perch, and stuff like that. And then the rattle traps came out, and everybody was all over them. I like big lipless crankbaits a lot of times. That's an ounce. And the thing you got to watch about these lipless crankbaits is that even they both may say they're a half ounce, they're not each the same. They'll be different weights. They'll react totally different in the water. Hot spots are notorious for being a lighter weight than a rattle trap or something. So that's something you got to watch. And like I say, you got to, the size is, just pick your poison. You want to throw a great old big one, or do you want to throw a little bitty one? See, here's one a little bit smaller. That's like a ½ ounce. I've got all sizes of them. I've got them down to little bitty things like that right there. Little wee tiny things that I use with my ultralights. Oh, and we still got, like I said, we got big, super deep divers, all manner. Come on, get out of there. We got, on the bottom, we got a Man's 30 plus. We got a Man's 20 plus. We got a Strike King 10XD. And this is a Lucky Craft something. Don't know what. I found it. I don't know if the Mans are made anymore, but you can look at that lip, but you don't think that thing won't get down? Strike King 10XD. And the thing about all these crankbaits is you have to have such vastly different tackle to throw them all on. You don't want to throw a little deep weir or even a rock crawler on a rod that you would throw this on. You're going to have a heavier rod, different action, heavier line, which is something to think about. And so it's so hard to find a proper rod because there's no standard in the rod industry. One guy's medium is another guy's medium heavy. One guy's medium heavy is another guy's heavy. Fast action, moderate action, there's no standard. So unless you can get your hands on a rod and actually use it, boy, it is hard to buy the correct rod. It took me a long time to find the perfect rod to throw my flat A on. It also took a long time to find the perfect reel because it's light and it's hard to throw, but I finally found a reel that would handle it, and I finally found the perfect rod. The rod was an Icon that I got up at Fish North, Georgia. 7 foot, medium heavy, moderate fast, 10 to 17 pound line up to a 3/4 ounce lure. But the reel was another booger because my old 5500Cs that I love so much, they just don't handle real light lures very well. I even had to start throwing it on spinning tackle. But I found this Shimano Chronarch, and I can set it, get it just like I want to, and I can throw this. So this rod, this reel is dedicated to this lure only. I never take this lure off. It stays on this rod all the time, but it is an outstanding outfit. I just got lucky. I went up there and I told Ryan, I said I want to look. I said, find me a couple of 7 foot crankbait rods. I said, like a medium action, medium heavy. And he came back with this one and another one. And I settled on this one. Got a really good deal on it. I wish I could get another good deal like that because I'd buy another one. But boy, when you look at it from the manufacturer, whoo, I ain't paying that for a rod. That's something else. And I know people are probably getting sick of hearing it, but I've never given more than $140 for a rod in my life. I've never given more. Now that Chronarch, that was pricey. That was pushing $300. I got a couple of them, but other than that, I've never paid more than $150 for a reel in my life. It just ain't necessary. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else about crankbaits that I hadn't covered that you normally don't hear about. Like I say, you got to take into consideration when you're using a crankbait the water depth, the water color, and the water temperature, and what size fish you're looking for. I mean, are you looking to catch fish, or are you looking to catch fish? And the thing about it is, crankbaits aren't like a lot of other lures. You don't necessarily have to use a big giant lure to catch a big giant fish. I don't know what it is. I mean, this little thing here, I caught a 9.5 and a 7 on it at Altoona the same day. And I caught some other big fish on it too. This thing here, I caught a 9.13, I caught a 9.5. I've caught some giants on this old Model A bomber right here. That's another one of my go-tos. And my trusty little flat A, I've caught them up to 9 pounds on it. Those are relatively small lures, but I mean, I've caught some giant fish on them. Now, you want to go another way on crankbaits, we got this. This is Henrietta. I've caught some big fish on Henrietta. She weighs 2.5 ounces. She's made out of wood. Got a nice wide wobble. There's 2 versions of Henrietta. There's this one and another one that dives even deeper. Catch some big fish on these things. And again, you see the kind of downward angle of the bill, not straight out, but it's a flat bait, so it's kind of got that kind of action to it. It ain't real extreme. It's kind of like that, a little more subdued. But it will catch. If you're looking for a toad, it'll catch a toad. So, what else we got? I think we're kind of approaching where I'm about to run out of stuff to talk about. Bottom line, look at the shape of the lure. Is it long and thin with a lure with a lip that comes almost straight out? It's going to have a real tight, subdued action. Probably not a great choice for off-color water. If I'm going to throw in something off-color water, I want something that's going to displace some water and make it easy for them to find. I'm going to throw something like a Super R. I'm going to throw something like this Bagley with that extreme wide wobble. If I'm hunting for a giant, I might throw this big DB3 Magnum, or I might grab Smoo and go for broke. There's also, I mean, there's all, you know, it's just what you want to do. I mean, my kind of fishing is not really geared to like a tournament style fishing, because I'm not looking just to catch a bunch of fish. I'm looking to catch some quality fish, some big fish. But I run across a lot of just regular fish in the meantime. But again, like I say, bear in mind the water color you're fishing in, the water temperature you're looking in, and pick a bait according to that. Don't use a bait just because somebody else told you it was a good bait. Use a bait according to the conditions you're fishing. Shad wraps, great lures in cold water. And like I say, they don't make this little puppy anymore, but it's a killer in cold water. And like I say, if you're going to go into dirtier color water, then you know, start using something that's going to displace some more water. If you're going to be fishing around a lot of shallow rock and stuff like that, you might want to consider balsa, even if it is cold weather. Just to get that fast flotation. And sometimes that fast flotation, that will trigger them. It's just diving around, all of a sudden it stops, and it whoosh, pops up, and they'll nail it. You know, each day's different. And that's one thing I don't know who it was said it. So that's the one thing about fishing. Said no 2 days are the same ever. Even if you're fishing 2 days back to back, no 2 days are ever the same. And that's the one thing I love about it. And it's also one reason that I don't use forward-facing sonar or any of that stuff. To me, the thrill is in the hunt. I want to figure out where they are. I want to figure out how to catch them. I don't want an electronic device saying, there's fish right there, throw right there. I don't, that's just not me. I pride myself on being able to find them on my own. All I want to know, all my depth finder want me to do is tell me the bottom, the contour, and how cold the water is. And if I'm going to drop a spoon on a rare occasion, yeah, then I need to know if there's fish under me. Other than that, I don't care. But I just don't, it's just not me. But anyway, those are some things to think about when you're choosing a crankbait. The width, the body style, the composition of the bait, and the conditions you're fishing. And what kind of action you want out of it. So anyway, maybe this helps some people, maybe it won't. But it's getting to the limits of what I know about crankbaits. And I like to think I know a little bit, because I've been using them for like 40 years, and they've accounted for about 30% of the fish I catch. Oh, this is another thing. And this is what fooled me about this lure when I bought it. I thought it was a big giant crankbait. Well, I got it, took it to the lake, and it's a friggin' wake bait. It won't hardly dive at all. And with that lip, I thought it would dive some, but nope. But it's got a big wobble. But it's strictly a wake bait. I totally caught me off guard. But I like the action of it so much, I bought another one. I got a little smaller version. Smaller or bigger? I don't know. This one weighs about 2 1/4 ounces. But just some things to think about when you're when you're fishing a crankbait. You can listen to other people, and you know, you got to mix that with what you see and what you know, and kind of figure it out on your own, because everybody's different. Everybody's got their different preferences. People use a lot of lures that I don't even own and catch fish. I've got a lot of lures that I know people don't own. I've always caught fish on them. They worked for 40 years. So anyway, just something to think about. And if you got a question, just reach out to me on the YouTube channel when you see this, and I'll get back to you. You know, it may take me a day or two sometimes, but I'll get back to you and tell you what I know. Anyway, that's it.